The storm devours the jungle, and the wildlife center exhales into darkness as the grid collapses. Red emergency strips throb along the corridor, turning steel and tile into a slow-beating wound. Dr. Lauren Pierce moves through water that slicks her ankles, a thermal blanket clenched to her chest, a newborn gorilla nested inside its heat. The infant's body shivers once, then sinks toward stillness, breath misting the foil like fading frost. Metal groans in the rafters. Rain hammers the roof in percussive sheets, 1,000 fists insisting on entry. A monitor on a rolling stand spasms awake, paints a single green thread, falters, and rises again. The room holds its breath, as if walls can pray. Beyond the glass, the enclosure bleeds into black canopy, a heaving ocean of leaves waiting to reclaim what life has defied. In the hush between thunderbeats, a fragile rhythm answers the storm. Small, stubborn, impossibly alive. Ozone swirls with antiseptic as water threads beneath sealed doors, pooling into mirrors that double the red light. Barefoot for traction, Lauren advances, pressing warmth into the tiny body while machines sleep like hulks along the walls. The generator stutters below, a tired animal clearing its throat without conviction. Incubator housings shimmer beneath battery halos, plastic windows filmed with condensation, her own shadow stretching across them like a guardian stitched from vapor. The infant's breath flutters against her wrist, light as moth wings, skipping beats to match the building's failing hum. Trees rake the siding outside, branches scraping like careful fingers testing a lock. For a heartbeat, the world stills. No wind, no water, only the soft ticking of cooling metal. Then, deep inside the ductwork, something knocks twice, precise and mechanical, the rhythm of a machine that should be dead. The infant's chest lifts on cue, as if answering an unseen metronome.
Hours earlier, morning fog braided itself through strangler figs while a drone sliced the air with insect patience. The audio team listened for choruses of frogs and far-off thunder, but a new pattern intruded, low and regular, a pressure beat moving through roots and stone. Filters stripped rain from noise. The rhythm remained, stubborn as breath. Coordinates pinned. Rangers walked single file, machetes opening thin mouth wounds in wet leaves, diesel and crushed fruit sweetening the air to nausea. The forest dimmed, then exhaled a cry so small it seemed imagined. Not echo, not metal, a pleading note caught in earth and rain. They found the hollow where soil steamed as if the ground itself had fever, a nest of torn vines and bent grass, the dent of weight freshly lifted. Mud shifted, a slick eye blinked beneath a film of water, then stilled. The canopy hushed, as if the jungle preferred its tragedies completed. Inside the field tent, waveforms crawled across a damp laptop, blue mountains eroding under static. The pattern persisted, double tap, breath, double tap, like hydraulic pistons counting down a task. Then, after the skidder stalled and silence should have taken root, the cadence trudged on, faint yet faithful. When the team reached the clearing, the machine lay half sunk, cables like black snakes drowning in mud. A sapling bowed over a scooped depression, a cradle gouged into earth with clumsy intention. The air tasted of iron filings and oil rainbows. Lightning stitched the sky, revealing a glimmer within the hollow. Wet fur, splayed limbs, a chest trying to remember how to rise. A ranger brushed leaves away, uncovered the small face, watched the pupil tighten at the touch of light. The rhythm on the recorder aligned with the tremor beneath his palm. Inhuman timing, unnatural persistence, as if the forest had adopted a broken engine's pulse.
The infant lay twisted, bones angled like branches snapped and rehung by wind. Mist thickened into veils that caught the silhouettes of the troop returning to look without claiming. Their shapes hovered at the boundary of sight, massive, deliberate, withholding the comfort of touch, accepting the verdict nature had written. One shadow lingered longer, shoulders humped, head tilted, eyes reflecting amber before the rain erased their shine. The jungle rearranged its chorus, replacing grief with function. Wind through raffia palms, frogs stitching seams in the undertone, water braiding down bark in relentless silver. A strand of runoff traced the infant's curled fingers, carving clean lines through mud as if sketching a future handhold. She did not whimper. The weather performed sorrow on her behalf. When the rescue lamp burned the clearing white, the reflective eyes were gone, and the impression of a waiting presence sealed itself into wet leaves. At the outpost, condensation ghosted across displays, while the portable incubator hummed like a distant hive. Inside, the infant's chest sawed shallowly beneath adhesive leads, numbers scaling and dropping with unnerving candor. The generator coughed, recovered and coughed again, shaking dust from rafters like fine ash. Lauren watched the waveform draw a hesitant river, peaks starving to blades as the body cooled. She slid heat packs beneath the foil, sealed gaps against drafts, and timed her breaths to the fragile tide, counting seconds into a rhythm she could not control. On a neighboring table, evidence bags held soil flecked with metallic glitter, the smear of lubricant rainbowing beneath lens glare. Outside, rain changed its handwriting on the roof, shifting from fury to fast tapping, the argot of a factory throttled to idle. The infant's heart hitched once, twice, sinking to that artificial cadence, as if some distant engine had volunteered to keep time.
Back at the center, storm rise turned gutters to cataracts, and the main board spat sparks that died like fireflies drowning mid-flight. A rolling cart clipped a threshold, its paddles thudding against metal, blue gel pads reflecting the siren-red ambience. Moments later, the room contracted into focus. Foil peeled back, skin pale beneath damp fur, sterile gel a cold sheen across ribs that lifted poorly. The paddles kissed and lifted, charged again, resolving the storm's chaos into a single blue command. Muscles jumped, then settled, a tide testing shore. Outside, the wind shoved against glass, and the building answered with a subsonic moan. Lauren counted beats the way sailors count waves, waiting for the one that overturns the boat. When the monitor hesitated, it didn't flatline. It blinked in quiet defiance, a stubborn green stitch refusing to break. The light over the door flickered as if the building, too, decided to endure. Earlier that afternoon, the facility had felt almost trustworthy, fluorescents humming with bureaucratic calm. A maintenance bulletin warned that the generator's regulator was overdue, a note initialed and forgotten beneath other urgencies. Dr. Ethan Cole reviewed intake scans, eye hollows shadowed by long shifts, statistics gathering like frost in the margins of his thoughts. He spoke in measured tones about humane thresholds and survival curves, the science of mercy shaped into policy. Rain began as a smear against distant glass, a prelude nobody treated as prophecy. In the nursery wing, Lauren adjusted heat settings and tucked a lavender sachet near the incubator port, a signature aroma she'd learned could anchor distress. Beyond the enclosures, the forest turned its face toward incoming weather and withheld secrets. Somewhere between the quiet paperwork and the first hard strike of thunder, a truth took root. The building was a shell, and what mattered most would happen when it failed.
Lightning spidered across the canopy, and the monitor inside the nursery mapped tremors into crooked hieroglyphs. The infant's breath faltered, returned, faltered again, as if negotiating with forces outside her scale. The thunderhead's pressure leaned on the center's windows, compressing air until each inhale felt borrowed. Somewhere in the subfloor, the generator's rhythm aligned with the storm, a duet no one had intended, two separate machines agreeing on urgency. Lauren's hands hovered above the blanket, translating instinct into touch, stacking small advantages, warmth, stillness, timed contact, to ride the fragile loop. The room smelled of metal and milk, old electricity and rain. For 3 heartbeats, everything matched: wind, engine, waveform, the tiny ribs beneath her palms. Then the grid hiccuped. Darkness edged the walls like floodwater reclaiming ground. The green line thinned dangerously, held and thickened. The storm raged on, but a different weather gathered around the incubator, a microclimate built from refusal. At the discovery site, the jungle had watched with the patience of stone. Between bursts of rain, leaves parted to reveal nothing, then closed again, rehearsing invisibility. The team worked by habit: perimeter, scan, lift, wrap, record. Yet sensation prickled their backs, a calibration that suggested being measured in return. A broken liana twined around a low branch like a tourniquet. Beneath it, a smear of fur clung where a body had slid. Beyond the clearing, the underbrush formed a vaulted tunnel, inviting and ominous, the kind of passage prey takes and predators remember. In that tilted quiet before the lamp swung, a pair of eyes hovered at the margin, amber coins catching a private currency of light. They did not approach or flee, merely audited the scene, absorbed the facts, and withdrew. When the beam returned, only rain remained, drumming conclusions into mud. The infant lay where judgment had ended and chance had begun.
The infant's body weighed less than expectation, more memory than muscle, a bundle of breath and grit. The ranger slid his hands beneath her, skin slipping against clay, heartbeat a trembling echo inside the soft towel they wrapped around her form. The air smelt of copper, oil, and wet soil, a mixture that felt industrial, not natural. Nearby, the machine's tracks filled slowly with rainwater, turning the earth into a mirror that reflected the forest upside down. The rescue truck idled in the distance, its lights cutting weak veins through mist. When they carried her toward it, every step triggered the ground to sigh, mud sucking at boots as if reluctant to surrender what it had briefly owned. Above them, thunder cracked again, but softer this time, like applause from something unseen. In the hollow they left behind, water collected quickly, sealing the imprint, rewriting the crime as if it had never occurred. The vehicle crawled along the mountain road, its headlights reduced to dull cones of gold by the fog. The cargo bay smelled of fuel, latex, and faint decay. The infant rested inside a crate lined with towels, steam rising from her body in ghost-like threads. Beside her, medical packs trembled with each turn, their labels smearing in condensation. Dr. Lauren Pierce sat behind the driver, one gloved hand reaching through the crate's slot, fingertips brushing cold fur. The touch drew an instinctive curl, not strength, but muscle memory, a body refusing to learn surrender. Behind them, the forest folded inward, concealing its secrets beneath a curtain of rain. Somewhere in that vast darkness, machines still whispered. The road narrowed until it became a wound of gravel through roots. When the tires slipped, the headlights swung briefly toward the canopy, revealing wet leaves like mirrors and shadows that seemed to follow in perfect step.
By the time they reached North Valley Wildlife Center, dawn had turned pale and colorless. The rain had stopped, but left the air heavy, swollen with unspent thunder. The infant's crate was lifted out carefully, steam still clinging to its hinges. Inside the isolation ward, metallic light sliced across white tiles, and the hum of sterilizers filled the space with artificial life. Dr. Ethan Cole stood waiting, arms crossed, expression neutral but edges drawn tight with fatigue. He gestured toward the incubator, the last one functional since the outage 2 days before. Lauren transferred the infant, sealing the lid, the machine's internal light framing the tiny form in sterile amber. Numbers blinked awake, mapping weakness into digits, pulse into data. For the first time since the forest, everything was measurable. Yet in the brief pause before the monitor stabilized, the child's chest moved once more, independent, uncalculated, almost defiant. The room was steady, its machines murmuring in mechanical prayers. Then, without warning, the rhythm faltered. The pulse line wavered, flattened, and held still. The silence afterward had weight, thicker than air, the kind that presses against ribs until breath feels optional. Lauren leaned over the incubator, eyes flicking between numbers frozen in disbelief. Beyond the glass partition, Ethan's reflection shifted, motion without intervention. The seconds elongated until the digital clock's hum became intolerable. A droplet of condensation slid down the incubator wall, vanishing into the seam, marking the exact moment she stopped. Outside, the first birds of morning broke into cautious song, unaware of the stillness on the other side of the glass. The world had continued its rotations, indifferent to scale or tragedy. Inside the ward, all the lights remained functional, all systems normal, except for the single rhythm that mattered most, now resting between two breaths.
Then, faint as mist through reeds, a sound returned. Not a cry, not a gasp, but a tremor, the shape of breath rediscovering form. The monitors hesitated, uncertain, then stumbled back into rhythm, green thread stitching across black once more. Lauren exhaled without realizing she'd been holding her lungs hostage. The waveform steadied, then dipped again, as if testing the terms of its resurrection. Outside, the clouds broke enough for a shaft of morning light to sneak through the blinds, crawling slowly across the incubator's surface. It pooled on the infant's cheek, catching moisture, refracting it into gold. The light trembled as the generator kicked into smoother rotation, replacing chaos with the illusion of control. The air smelled of wet dust and ozone. Somewhere behind her, a wall clock began to tick audibly again. It marked seconds as triumph, and for the first time, time itself seemed willing to cooperate. Later that day, Lauren replayed the forest audio through the lab's monitor. The sound filled the sterile space like a ghost that hadn't accepted relocation. Between static bursts, the rhythmic pounding persisted. 2 beats, pause, 2 beats, identical to the infant's current heart trace. The coincidence clung to her skin like humidity. She reduced noise filters, zoomed into the waveform, and saw the impossible. Faint harmonics overlaying the mechanical pattern, a biological voice threaded through machinery. It wasn't background, it was synchronization. Her hand trembled slightly as she saved the file. The monitor across the room echoed the same tempo, green line pulsing with eerie agreement. The rain had stopped outside, yet the room still felt wet, waterlogged by revelation. For the first time, Lauren wasn't sure whether she was studying survival or being studied by it. The rhythm continued, loyal, ancient, and impossibly aware.
Ethan entered the lab quietly, his reflection preceding him in the glass. He scanned the waveform, unimpressed. The report from headquarters had already arrived, an official statement that no logging operation had occurred in the region for months. The claim fit bureaucracy, not reality. Lauren closed the window but kept the sound in her ears, the heartbeat of coincidence. Ethan's voice remained level as he cited procedures, the necessity of detachment, the risk of anthropomorphism. He left his signature on the clipboard and the door ajar behind him, an absence more commanding than presence. The air thickened again, filled with the faint vibration of running fans and hidden generators. The infant slept beneath plastic, her ribs moving in perfect time with that forbidden rhythm. Outside, thunder rolled miles away, as though the storm itself was unwilling to let the truth settle. The sound on the recording continued, unbothered by human denial. In the sterile half-light,
Lauren noticed something new. A dark crescent beneath the infant's left ribs, nearly invisible beneath damp fur. She lifted the blanket, found the puncture, and froze. The wound was round, too precise for natural injury, its edges glazed with fine residue that shimmered under magnification. A smell of burnt lubricant clung to it, faint but undeniable. She sealed the sample in a sterile vial and slid it into her pocket before anyone could see. The clock above the sink marked each second with surgical precision, indifferent to implications. Outside, lightning illuminated the tree line. The reflection of bare branches webbed across the incubator like a cage drawn in light. The infant stirred, chest rising shallowly. The wound pulsed once with her heartbeat, releasing a single drop of dark fluid that disappeared into the towel, evidence already absorbed, the forest's secret traveling quietly inside her.
That night, the audio from the forest was transferred to the analysis drive. Lauren aligned it against the live cardiac trace, 2 lines racing side by side on separate monitors. Slowly, the beats fell into synchrony, machine echoing body, body echoing machine. The realization landed like cold metal against bone. On the wall, a whiteboard filled with coordinate maps and rainfall logs took on the look of something conspiratorial. Ethan's signature at the bottom of a report gleamed under the lamp, sharp as an accusation. Outside, the first gusts of the new storm bent the trees, their branches drumming against the windows like impatient fingers demanding entry. Lauren turned the speakers down, but the sound persisted from somewhere deeper, not through air, but through walls, through pulse. The center itself had begun to breathe in rhythm, as though one fragile life had taught it a new language of persistence. When the tremor came, it was almost imperceptible, a small spasm that rippled from Aria's shoulder to her fingertips. The monitors caught it first, converting muscle into light, recording movement as a spike among steady waves. Then her fingers flexed again, slow, deliberate, the shape of instinct waking. The incubator's reflection painted her tiny face across the ceiling, eyes closed, lashes twitching as if watching dreams too heavy for their frame. Lauren stood motionless, afraid to disturb the fragile alliance between will and survival. Beyond the glass, dawn thickened into gray, rain clouds folding over themselves in apology. The building seemed to pause, listening to its newest rhythm. The tremor settled, returned, grew confident. Against all statistical reasoning, movement had begun to replace data. The small hand, once limp, reached upward through the glow of the incubator light, not to grasp, but simply to prove the act of reaching still existed. The administrative boardroom at North Valley smelled of damp carpet and tension. Files lay open under the flicker of fluorescent light, charts displaying columns of mortality percentages, expected outcomes, and acceptable loss. Dr. Ethan Cole sat at the end of the table, posture sharp, voice measured. He presented Aria's case with the detachment of a surgeon describing an organ outside a body. Lauren stood near the projection screen, eyes fixed not on the numbers but on the spaces between them. She could still hear the rhythm from the recordings humming beneath the meeting's sterile silence. Outside, rain hammered the windows like a persistent question. When the committee asked if the infant had displayed independent reflex, Lauren answered yes. Her voice was soft but unwavering. Pens scratched notes, decisions forming like frost along a pane. Before adjournment, a verdict was implied but not spoken. The line between life and data was dangerously thin. Long after the building emptied, Lauren remained in the analysis lab. Monitors glowed like underwater creatures, screensavers breathing slow blue gradients. She reopened the forest audio, isolated the hidden layers, and magnified frequencies too subtle for human hearing. Shapes appeared. Not patterns of noise, but symmetry, the trace of rhythm designed rather than accidental.
When she overlaid the file with Aria's latest vitals, each peak aligned within fractions of a second. She labeled the file Echo 3, saved it under a harmless directory name, and copied it to a portable drive she slipped into her pocket. Outside, power cables dripped steady water into puddles that reflected the trembling light of distant storms. She closed the laptop, but the hum persisted. Low, nearly biological. For a moment she wondered if it came from the speakers, from the building, or from the small heart down the hall, still refusing silence.
In the isolation ward, night diluted the edges of machines until only the sounds remained. The sigh of ventilators, the tick of voltage regulators, the distant growl of thunder. Lauren compared these to the forest's mechanical pulse. Each matched, each bled into the next. Somewhere, an unseen chain connected jungle and lab. She noted that whenever the backup generator wavered, Aria's heartbeat adjusted fractionally, filling the silence perfectly. It was adaptation on a scale too immediate for evolution. On the table nearby, the vial from the wound caught moonlight, glittering like a small universe of metal dust. She turned off the overheads to think, but darkness only sharpened the noise. 2 quick beats, 1 pause, repeating. In that hypnotic cadence, she felt intention, as if the world was tuning itself to one tiny life that refused to disappear. The sound no longer felt foreign, it felt orchestrated. Near midnight, the infant stirred. A twitch ran down her arm, weak but deliberate. The movement set off a cascade of faint alarm tones, amber lights rippling along the row of dormant monitors. Lauren stepped closer, every nerve braced between hope and disbelief. Aria's fingers tightened around the edge of the blanket, joints creaking like newborn branches testing weight. Her chest rose in rhythm with the distant thunder outside, small lungs sinking to the storm as though it were a teacher. For a long moment she remained half between worlds, one mechanical, one wild, before exhaling a sound that might have been breath or defiance. The light from the incubator caught her eyes, still closed, lashes damped with condensation. Each faint tremor became a declaration that the laws governing survival were negotiable. Machines could record it, scientists could name it, but only the jungle could understand what had just resumed.
Morning returned without ceremony. Ethan stood behind the glass, clipboard in hand, his expression unreadable. The lab smelled of coffee and disinfectant, 2 disguises for exhaustion. Lauren's notes sprawled across a notepad, ink blurred where her hand had rested too long. The infant slept now, deeper than before, limbs still imperfect but animated by subtle twitches that kept the monitors alive with minor suspense. Ethan recorded vitals, spoke little, then left. His shadow lingered across the incubator lid like residue. Alone again, Lauren pressed her palm to the glass, not for contact, but for calibration. The warmth from within pushed faintly against her skin, a quiet assertion that observation was never neutral. Outside, the rain thinned to mist, the forest a blurred watercolor. Every droplet against the window echoed that mechanical rhythm, steady and deliberate. Somewhere between pulse and protocol, something conscious was listening back. The storm thickened again by afternoon, sky folding into darker layers until the building seemed to shrink under its weight. Inside, fluorescent lights struggled to stay white. The infant's vitals improved enough to shift her from triage to controlled care. Lauren supervised, her gestures efficient but eyes elsewhere, always measuring the pulse between thunderstrikes. Ethan reviewed records behind her, his reflection sharp in the stainless cabinet, half ghost, half authority. When he spoke, his tone was procedural, but fatigue cracked the edges. He reminded her of probabilities, of lines not to cross, of empathy's limited function in research. She nodded but didn't answer. On the monitor, Aria's heartbeat spiked briefly. Double beat, pause, double beat, matching the pattern from the forest again. Ethan frowned, adjusted a dial, unaware that the rhythm wasn't error, but intention. The storm answered with identical cadence, confirming allegiance to something larger than oversight. Paperwork accumulated like fallen leaves across the central desk. Every form demanded acknowledgement that mercy and procedure could coexist. Lauren signed nothing. Ethan hovered near the door, the hum of fluorescent light sharpening the argument neither of them voiced. On the monitor, Aria slept, her hand occasionally twitching open, then closing around invisible reassurance. The silence between them grew taut until thunder cracked over the roof, shaking dust from vents. Ethan reached for the folder labeled Euthanasia option, consideration, placed it neatly on the counter, pen aligned parallel to the margin. Lauren stared at it until the ink of the header blurred. The machine beeped, hesitant, and both looked toward it at once. The sound resembled the rhythmic pattern from the recording, amplified and deliberate. Without turning from the screen, Lauren tore the folder in half. The pen rolled to the floor, marking the only signature she would provide. By late afternoon, the horizon vanished behind curtains of water. The wildlife center trembled beneath each gust, power lines humming like taut strings before breaking into sparks. Backup generators engaged with reluctant growls. The smell of ozone crawled through corridors, mixing with antiseptic until the air felt electrical. In the nursery, warning lights flashed amber, reflecting across the incubator's curved surface like fire on metal. Lauren secured equipment, taped over cracks where rain infiltrated, and set portable batteries along the counter in a defiant row. Outside, the canopy bent to the wind's command. Branches flung debris against the windows in rhythmic assault. The storm was no longer background. It was participant, collaborator, judge. Somewhere in the distance, a tree splintered, its fall muffled by water. The building's foundation vibrated like a drumskin, keeping tempo with a small heartbeat inside, two separate tempests negotiating one fragile alliance.
Before the first breaker failed, Lauren acted. She unplugged the workstation, slipped the portable drive containing Echo 3 into her jacket, and sealed it in plastic. The screens flickered in protest, warning icons blossoming like red flowers across displays. Somewhere deeper in the building, sirens stuttered into partial life, calling half-heartedly for evacuation. Ethan's voice echoed faintly from another wing, issuing orders about backup power and containment. She ignored him, moving instead toward the incubator. The infant stirred beneath a veil of condensation, tiny lungs flexing against the changing pressure. The hum of the generator lowered an octave, preparing to surrender. Rain burst through a cracked vent, speckling the tiles with cold constellations. The data lights along the network rack dimmed one by one, surrendering in sequence. In the brief darkness between systems, the only light left came from within the incubator, a single glow pulsing like a heartbeat. Hours later, while the storm still prowled the valley, television screens in nearby towns flickered with a brief interruption, a few seconds of static followed by an image, a drenched laboratory, emergency lights pulsing red, and a woman holding something small against her chest. The frame lasted only a moment before transmission resumed, dismissed by most as signal interference. At North Valley, the source remained unknown. No camera had been scheduled for that feed, no staff admitted to recording. Yet the clip existed somewhere, spreading quietly through online channels before dawn. In every replay, the same details repeated: the storm outside the glass, the failing power, and a single green monitor light refusing to go dark. Nobody watching could hear the heartbeat through the static, but they felt it, a rhythm that demanded attention. The story had escaped containment, and now the world itself was beginning to listen. The first power surge tore through the wildlife center like a shuddering exhale. Lights flared white, then died to embers. The storm pressed harder, rain horizontal, windows vibrating with each electric strike. Inside the nursery, alarms pulsed erratically, each one contradicting the next. Temperature drop, oxygen loss, voltage fail. Lauren sprinted between machines, the floor slick beneath her shoes, wires tangling like roots in floodwater. Ethan's voice crackled from a failing intercom, lost in static.
A ceiling tile gave way, water spilling onto monitors that hissed and dimmed. She reached the incubator as a final surge blew the circuit, plunging everything into suffocating red darkness. The only movement came from Aria, her body shuddering under the strobe of failing emergency lights. Lauren wrapped the infant in her jacket and held her tight against her chest. Outside, thunder rolled like collapsing stone. The storm had entered the building, and no wall could keep it out. Lauren moved through corridors lit by intermittent lightning flashes, slicing through high windows. The emergency lights sputtered weakly, painting her path in brief segments of red. Water streamed from ceiling vents, running along walls in trembling veins. Ahead, the generator chamber roared like a beast, refusing sleep. Sparks leapt from junction boxes as she passed, each pop illuminating Aria's small form against her body. She could feel the infant's heartbeat racing beneath the blanket, a tempo quicker than her own. At each intersection, she paused to listen. To the generator's rhythm, to the pulse she carried, to the storms pounding overhead. All three sounds aligned for an instant, merging into a single mechanical roar that made her blood vibrate. When she reached the stairwell, smoke curled from the wiring. The building's heart was failing in real time, yet the small one in her arms continued, indifferent, stubborn, impossibly synchronized.
Water had reached the lowest level, rippling with every footfall. The breaker panel stood open, its switches trembling under flickering light. Ethan appeared behind her, soaked, face ashen. His flashlight caught steam rising from the circuits. He gestured toward the emergency cutoffs, mouthing something lost beneath the roar. Lauren shifted Aria in her arms, crouched by the panel, and reached for the main reset. Sparks kissed her wrist, a brief sear that smelled of metal and skin. The generator coughed, then screamed, its belt slipping on flooded gears. Ethan's hand closed over hers, pulling her back as the board erupted into blue fire. Both staggered against the wall. The sound was deafening, a mechanical death rattle. Yet beneath it, faint but present, came another sound, a slow, resilient thump from the blanket she held. When the breaker finally surrendered to silence, that pulse alone remained, marking life inside the ruin. They found partial refuge in the stairwell, the air dense with smoke and rain mist. The emergency lights flickered, dripping red color down the walls like diluted blood. Lauren unwrapped the blanket enough to see Aria's face, pale, eyes sealed, chest rising shallow but steady. Ethan's expression softened, the argument between them erased by necessity. Outside, the wind roared through shattered vents, carrying leaves and fragments of bark that scattered across the landing. Each gust threatened to extinguish the thin circle of light around them. For minutes they sat motionless, counting the infant's breathing, waiting for another failure. When the worst of the storm began to ebb, Lauren looked down at her soaked jacket, realizing it radiated faint warmth, not hers, but the infant's. Against all logic, the smallest heart in the building had become the most consistent source of heat. In the aftermath of chaos, life redefined endurance.
By dawn, the blackout was over, generators stabilized, and the facility resumed its sterile hum. Yet an unseen ripple had already escaped. A technician reviewing security backups found corrupted footage, a few seconds of silent video from the storm. Lauren, kneeling on the flooded floor, Aria pressed against her chest, emergency light haloing them both. The clip contained no sound, only the rhythm of their shared breathing. It was uploaded for archival record and forgotten, until someone outside the network downloaded it. Within hours, it appeared on local news, stripped of context and branded as miracle. Viewers called it the pulse in the dark. Across screens, strangers watched two silhouettes surrounded by red light, water, and ruin, and they felt something beyond explanation. The facility received its first flood of emails before sunrise, each asking the same unanswerable question: How did something so fragile survive what nothing else could? The world discovered the story faster than the scientists could explain it. Clips multiplied across feeds, edited, slowed, filtered, given music. Some saw spirituality, others saw proof of adaptation. None saw the data Lauren kept hidden, the recordings, the residue, the rhythm that tied jungle to machine. The center's inbox overflowed with requests for interviews, documentaries, blessings. Public fascination replaced protocol. Ethan issued press statements full of caution and denial, but each word only fueled interest. Lauren stayed away from cameras, retreating to the lab, where the infant slept under quiet light. Through the glass, the monitor traced a steady line, unchanged, undisturbed by fame. She muted every notification, yet the noise of attention crept through walls like static. Outside, reporters camped at the gate, headlights carving restless patterns through fog. Inside, one heart kept time, unmoved by the world's sudden need to name its miracle.
Within days, an official inquiry arrived. The regional board demanded testimony, evidence, and chain of custody. Lauren received her notice under the same fluorescent light that had watched the storm. Ethan delivered it personally, his face drawn with bureaucratic exhaustion. She read it once, then folded it into her pocket. The board required data submission at a full procedural report, including justification for unauthorized interventions during the blackout. Her hands trembled as she wrote, every sentence a negotiation between truth and protection. The infant slept nearby, oblivious to politics. Through the incubator's thin glass, reflections overlapped. Her own, Ethan's, the small figure between them. 3 versions of responsibility captured in one pane. Thunder murmured in the far distance, a memory refusing to die. Lauren signed only her name, omitting explanation. Some storms could be survived. Others simply waited for their next moment to return. The boardroom screens glowed cold blue as recordings played in sequence. The forest survey audio, the heart rate traces, the video from the storm. Around the table, men and women in tailored suits whispered beneath their breath. When the metallic rhythm from the jungle merged perfectly with the hospital data, conversation stopped. Ethan defended the anomaly as equipment interference. Lauren said nothing. A member of the panel rewound the footage, slowed it down, isolated frames of the infant's twitching fingers. The motion was small, but precise, not random. Debate erupted again. Coincidence versus cognition. Outside the building, thunder rolled, as if summoned on cue. Lauren lifted her gaze from the table to the window's reflection, the same storm mirrored in glass. The board adjourned without conclusion, verdict postponed. Yet everyone leaving that room carried the same unease, the suspicion that something new had been born beyond their control. The following morning, a courier arrived with a folder stamped transfer authorization. The Wildlife Center no longer held exclusive rights to the infant's care. Higher institutions had claimed jurisdiction, citing public interest and advanced study. Ethan read the document aloud, each word formal and irreversible. Lauren listened without reaction. The air conditioner hummed its low, endless monotone. Through the glass, Aria slept amid shifting reflections of sky and cloud, unaware of ownership. Lauren waited until the courier left, then placed her hand on the incubator lid, leaving a print that fogged and faded slowly. She had promised endurance, not surrender. The decision of control belonged to no one who'd faced the storm firsthand. Outside, the trees swayed in warm wind, a false calm after violence. Somewhere within the power grid, the generator clicked, resettling into that familiar double beat, like a reminder that possession was temporary. That night, after most staff had gone, Lauren slipped past the security camera's slow pivot and entered the ward. The lights had dimmed for nocturnal cycles, leaving the space washed in blue. She approached the incubator and turned off the overhead sensors to avoid triggering alerts. The infant's breathing filled the silence,
a slow tide of sound that calmed her pulse. She opened the lid enough to slide her hand inside, fingertips brushing warm fur. The rhythm met her touch instantly, a recognition without sight. For the first time, she realized the pulse she followed wasn't only Aria's, it was her own reflected back, measured and mimicked until distinction vanished. Outside, the night wind carried a faint scent of rain, hinting that storms never truly ended, only paused. Lauren withdrew her hand, sealing the incubator once more. The lights blinked overhead, unsure whether to rest or resume vigilance.
Dawn arrived gray and unfinished. The forest below the center steamed under low clouds, each leaf trembling with leftover rain. From the observation deck, Lauren watched the mist shift like breathing. Somewhere beyond the tree line, thunder rolled again, softer now but insistent, echoing the same two-beat rhythm she could no longer escape. Inside, the infant's vitals registered steady, perfect, almost rehearsed. Ethan approached behind, holding a printout, an invitation to an international research partnership, a chance to transfer both her and Aria abroad. His tone was pragmatic, his expression unreadable. The paper's margins fluttered in the wind, sneaking through cracked glass. Lauren said nothing. The storm spoke for her, its faint tremor against the windows repeating the pulse she had memorized in darkness. Somewhere in the distance, lightning veined the horizon again, a reminder that nature, bureaucracy, and destiny often kept the same schedule. Late that evening, the surveillance team monitoring forest microphones sent a message. New audio had appeared, identical to the first cry that led them to Aria. The data showed origin miles away, deep inside uncharted canopy. Lauren replayed it on her console, and the sound flooded the speakers, the same rhythm, clearer, more confident, almost melodic. Static wrapped around it like breath. She lowered the volume, but the noise lingered in her ears, pulsing even after silence. Ethan entered mid-playback, glanced at the screen and frowned. He said the signal was artifact, a mere echo caused by equipment fault, but the timestamp proved otherwise. Lightning flared outside the glass. Power flickered just once. The cry continued, faint but deliberate. Somewhere beyond maps, something alive was answering the lab's heartbeat in perfect synchrony, as if the forest had learned the song and refused to let it end.
After the new signal, the facility turned restless. Reporters returned, scientists argued, and the network infrastructure sagged under the weight of speculation. Every conversation became a theory: cloning, contamination, divine symmetry, none satisfied. In the nursery, Aria slept amid the noise, heartbeat unfazed by headlines. Lauren reviewed hours of sensor data, cross-referencing with atmospheric changes. Every thunderstorm coincided with spikes in the infant's neurological activity, each surge matching rainfall graphs like synchronized choreography. Ethan tried to reason through the math, but the numbers refused ordinary shape. The data lines curved toward pattern, not accident. During the night watch, Lauren recorded one last chart, a mirror between cloud discharge and muscle twitch. When she overlaid them, the images fused perfectly. In her exhaustion, she wondered which system led and which merely followed. Outside, distant thunder answered again, closing the loop of question and echo without offering translation. At 2:14 a.m., the alarm shattered the lab's silence. Aria's body arched within the incubator, sensors detaching under sudden strain. The monitor screamed, red digits cascading toward zero. Lauren ran barefoot across the tile, unlocking the lid before protocols could stop her. The infant convulsed, each movement violent but rhythmic, almost choreographed. Lightning illuminated the ward in fragments. For every flash, another contraction struck. Ethan appeared, shouting words that vanished beneath sound. Together they restrained the tiny limbs, securing the tubes and monitors. Then, as quickly as it began, the spasm ended. The silence afterward felt manufactured, too clean. On the monitor, new brainwave patterns pulsed, complex, symmetrical, unlike anything in the archive. Outside, thunder rolled with uncanny timing, each clap arriving precisely with the chart's spikes. The storm had returned, but now it listened, obeying signals born within a creature
too small to comprehend command.
The next morning, the administrative order arrived. Effective immediately, Dr. Lauren Pierce was suspended pending review of procedural misconduct. Ethan delivered it in person, eyes tired but compliant. She accepted the envelope without opening it. Her lab keycards were disabled within the hour. 2 guards escorted her through corridors still stained from the storm. As she passed the nursery window, she caught a glimpse of Aria sleeping, chest rising with steady calm. The reflection of clouds moved over the incubator lid like slow waves. Lauren paused, long enough to match her own breathing to the rhythm she could no longer measure. Beyond the gate, journalists waited, their cameras feeding live streams to a world convinced it understood the story. When she stepped into daylight, thunder rumbled again from the forested hills, faint and familiar, as though promising she would not be kept away for long. Weeks passed. The facility reopened under tighter surveillance, with Aria moved to a new enclosure, larger, warmer, a mimicry of wild conditions. Her limbs had strengthened, though their angles remained strange, asymmetrical yet functional. The technicians monitored her through reinforced glass, noting each attempt at movement, each new adaptation. She dragged herself across padded mats with quiet determination, finding balance through unconventional geometry. Observers called it instinct, others whispered intelligence. Ethan recorded progress reports daily, his tone professional, but heavy with awe he never named aloud. Outside the building, rain began to return, gentle this time, tapping rhythmically against the glass like quiet applause. In that muted sound, the familiar pattern emerged once again. Double beat, pause, double beat. Within her new habitat, Aria lifted her head toward it, listening, responding with the faintest motion, a reminder that survival was no longer imitation, but conversation.
The reintegration trial began on a morning bright enough to seem merciful. In a controlled section of the sanctuary, Aria met her species again. Kira, the mother who had once turned away, approached through cautious silence. For a few seconds, time held its breath. Then instinct reasserted itself. Kira lunged, not out of hatred, but reflex, the law of the wild reclaiming order. The handler shouted. Barriers hissed closed, but not before Aria stumbled backward, tumbling against the ground. The impact cracked air instead of bone, but her small cry pierced the enclosure like glass breaking. Rain began abruptly, slanting through open vents. By the time the tranquilizers took effect, Kira had retreated into the trees. Aria lay still, breathing shallow, unhurt yet fractured in trust. Outside the window, Lauren watched from behind the viewing glass, her reflection hovering ghost-like beside the scene, both mother and stranger. The aftermath carried no sound but rainfall. In the infirmary, Aria rested under heat lamps, eyes half closed, chest rising unevenly. Every machine operated within limits, yet something unseen felt damaged. The small trust between body and environment now brittle. Lauren, reinstated temporarily for observation, stood beside the cage of light, motionless. Her own breath synced unconsciously to the slow beeping nearby. Ethan remained in the doorway, saying nothing. On the walls, projections of earlier recordings played in loops, flashes of the storm, the blackout, the rescues, silent reminders of repeated salvation. After hours of stillness, Aria stirred, her hand rising as if to feel rain that no longer fell. The gesture lingered in midair before falling back, incomplete. Outside the window, lightning flared without thunder, the sky rehearsing a storm that refused to arrive. Stillness had become its own weather, heavy and waiting. Framework 2, Week 17, Day 4. The Night Caller.
Days later, the new neurological scan revealed what no one anticipated. The infant's brain displayed regions alight with unfamiliar activity, bridges between motor and auditory centers that mapped like new continents. Lauren studied the glowing images, tracing lines that shouldn't exist. Ethan murmured theories about compensation, plasticity, coincidence. But each frame showed pattern, symmetry, deliberate construction. The wound site under her ribs also registered faint magnetic interference, as if metal remained there, living alongside bone. Outside the lab, the rain intensified, drumming the roof in that unmistakable sequence: double, pause, double. Aria's eyelids fluttered to the same rhythm. Lauren switched off the monitor, unwilling to reduce wonder to code. The room darkened, lit only by the pulse across the small body beneath the lamp. A signal written in skin, a message awaiting translation from the language of survival into something larger. Morning light filtered through the reinforced glass, pale and forgiving. Inside the enclosure, Aria moved with newfound steadiness, her gait uneven but purposeful. Lauren stood at the observation window, hands against the cold pane. The infant turned toward her, tilting her head, then raised one hand, twisted fingers extended, palm outward. The gesture mirrored Lauren's exactly, perfect alignment separated by a centimeter of transparent barrier. For long seconds, neither moved. The air in the room thickened with shared recognition, unspoken but complete. Cameras recorded, observers whispered, yet none could define what they witnessed. The gesture wasn't mimicry, it was acknowledgement. Outside, thunder answered faintly, closing the circle between forest and glass. The moment broke when Aria lowered her arm, retreating into shadow, leaving Lauren reflected on the window's surface. Human outline merged with the ghost of something older, wilder, and equally awake. Night returned to North Valley, carrying the scent of wet leaves and static. Inside the lab, screens glowed with images of Aria's brain, bright networks flickering like constellations finding new alignments. Each pulse of light synchronized with the storm beyond the glass. Technicians muttered about electrical interference, yet every fluctuation matched her heartbeat too precisely. The infant sat upright now, watching her reflection in the glass partition. Her fingers drummed against the floor in that ancient rhythm: double beat, pause, double beat. Lauren, standing in shadow, realized the sound was no longer echo, it was call and response. The air buzzed faintly, paper clips trembling on metal trays. In the data feed, patterns emerged that resembled language more than noise. The building, once indifferent, seemed to listen. Thunder rolled through the valley, slower this time, as if the storm itself sought to understand what it had helped create. At sunrise, sunlight filtered gold through the mist. A new name appeared on official documents: Aria Pierce, printed beside identification codes and research designations. Ethan insisted it was for cataloging. Lauren knew otherwise. A name meant existence beyond experiment. The letters looked fragile, yet undeniable. In the enclosure, Aria traced her reflection on the glass, her small hand leaving prints that overlapped Lauren's from the night before. Outside, the wind carried the smell of soil warmed after rain, earthy and alive. The institution continued to process paperwork, unaware it had already lost control of its own narrative. A creature once written as anomaly had acquired identity. Data sheets would call her a specimen, but every heartbeat inside the glass contradicted that label. The name echoed softly through the lab's air ducts, passing between walls like breath. Aria, song of air, rhythm given shape, had claimed herself.
By afternoon, technicians noticed fluctuations in power across the complex. Lights dimmed and swelled without pattern. In Aria's room, monitors flickered in synchrony with her movements. Each time she shifted, bulbs brightened. When she stilled, shadows returned. It was as if the circuitry had learned to mirror her physiology. Ethan ordered a systems check, fearing overload. Lauren simply watched. On the floor, Aria experimented with motion, awkward crawls, half rolls, rhythmic taps. The fluorescent tubes responded, pulsing gently, a silent orchestra conducted by instinct. Outside, thunderheads gathered again, darker than before, yet motionless, waiting.
When the first drop struck the roof, every light in the building glowed white for one breath, erasing shadow. The storm answered not with violence, but with illumination. And in that clarity, Lauren saw it. The outline of Aria reflected on the wall like a second heartbeat made of light. The viral footage resurfaced. News anchors revisited the storm video, stitching new speculation around old images. Headlines called Aria the gorilla that commands the weather. Crowds gathered beyond the facility's gates, voices merging with the continuous rain. Inside, Ethan coordinated containment strategies. The administration issued statements heavy with denial and rehearsed empathy. None of it mattered. Through reinforced glass, Lauren watched Aria respond to distant thunder with serene precision, her eyes reflecting lightning. Each flash seemed to converse with her, a dialogue of luminescence. Cameras outside caught faint tremors along the center's power lines, translating vibration into rumor. For the first time, Lauren felt the world's gaze not as curiosity, but hunger, a need to define what defied categorization. In that glare of attention, Aria remained composed, her rhythm unbroken, as if fame itself were another storm to endure quietly until it passed.
The board demanded Aria's transfer to a high-security research facility. The document arrived sealed, cold, inevitable. Lauren read it under the pale hum of fluorescent light. The language was sterile, for continued evaluation and asset protection. She folded the paper, slipped it into her coat, and walked to the enclosure one final time. Aria met her at the glass, tilting her head as if reading the verdict reflected in her caretaker's eyes. Rain streaked the barrier, turning their mirrored faces into one blurred silhouette. The world outside would call it protocol. Lauren knew it was exile. She whispered nothing, but her stillness conveyed promise. Beyond the perimeter, thunder gathered strength again, resonating through the foundation. Somewhere within that low vibration, she thought she heard a heartbeat answering her own, slow, deliberate, preparing for release rather than captivity. That night, a power failure swept the complex. Emergency systems faltered, security feeds blinked into darkness. Somewhere in the confusion, a single gate click echoed through the halls. The storm outside returned with vengeance, sheets of rain obscuring everything beyond arm's length. Lauren moved through the blackout, guided only by memory, her flashlight a trembling star in the smoke of blown circuits. She reached the enclosure to find the lock disengaged, door ajar, glass fogged from within. Inside, the space was empty except for damp footprints leading toward the service exit. Wind funneled through broken panels, carrying the scent of earth and freedom. The cameras rebooted too late to capture motion, only a door swinging, slowly, patiently, as if held open by invisible hands. Lightning flared once, revealing footprints vanishing into mud. Then darkness reclaimed everything, sealing escape in myth.
By dawn, the rain had ceased, leaving the valley slick and silver. Search teams combed the forest trails, drones humming above fog that swallowed their beams. Tracks led a mile before disappearing near a ravine where water overflowed its banks. Radios crackled with static, each signal distorted into fragments of rhythmic pulse. The team paused, uneasy. Some swore they heard faint breathing within the mist. Others claimed the pattern belonged to distant thunder. Lauren stood apart, eyes scanning the canopy that had once rejected and then sheltered life. She found no body, no sign of struggle, only movement deep within the green, slow and deliberate. Leaves swayed without wind. The jungle was exhaling again, hiding its miracle within its lungs. The rescue officially failed before noon, yet no one dared say the word lost. The forest simply refused to return what it had accepted back. Days passed. The facility emptied of reporters, its fences mended, its silence restored. Only the valley remained restless. At dusk, Locals spoke of shapes glimpsed through rain, something small moving with purpose along ridgelines framed by lightning. No cameras captured it clearly. Inside her quarters, Lauren replayed old footage, searching for a detail she might have missed. A glance, a signal, a goodbye coded in motion. Each time the screen reached static, she imagined a shadow breaking away from the edge of light. Outside her window, the sky darkened into violet, the color of unfinished storms. When thunder finally arrived, it was soft, distant, rhythmic. 2 beats, pause, 2 beats. She closed her eyes and let the sound settle behind her ribs, recognition replacing grief. Somewhere beyond record, the story was still continuing, written in pulse and rain.
Weeks later, a monitoring station far north recorded an anomaly. Amid ambient forest noise came a pattern unmistakable in cadence. Analysts logged it as atmospheric interference, but one technician compared it to the North Valley files and froze. The match was perfect. The signal repeated every sunset for 3 nights, then stopped. The coordinates placed it in untouched wilderness, no logging, no roads, no human habitation. A memo circulated quietly and was buried under newer crises. But Lauren, now working elsewhere, received an anonymous copy. She read the numbers, traced them on a map, and smiled without surprise. Somewhere beyond containment, a rhythm still played, measured, confident, free. Outside her window, rain began to fall again, soft and patient. Each drop tapped her desk twice, paused, then twice again. Nature reminding her that some stories don't end, they migrate. Twilight draped the valley in silver haze. The last visitors drifted from the abandoned observation deck, leaving silence to reclaim its domain. Through the lingering fog, a faint shape moved along the canopy ridge, small, uneven, but assured. Lightning flared once, capturing a silhouette against the pale horizon, a creature standing upright for a heartbeat, then lowering to the earth with measured grace. Inside the deserted lab, monitors long since deactivated flickered one last time, a ghost surge through forgotten circuits. For a single second, the screens showed twin images, Lauren's archived reflection beside Aria's outline in the storm, 2 figures aligned through time and glass. Then darkness closed over both, gentle and complete. The jungle exhaled a final breath of rain, and somewhere within it, the rhythm continued, steady, patient, eternal. The heartbeat of difference, echoing beyond the reach of walls, beyond the reach of explanation.